Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and I am so excited to be able to bring you my HarperCollins Wrap Up. The contract has been agreed upon, everyone has ratified it. I am so happy for the union that that they were able to get their very reasonable demands met, and yeah, I'm really excited about this, and I'm excited to get to tell you guys about some of these books that I've been holding reviews for, especially because a couple of them are some of my favorites of the year. So I was just like filming clips as I read the books, so I will just throw you back to past Kara. I also read Sacagawea by Joseph Ruszak. This is a historical fiction novel that is based on like the writings and accounts of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Specifically, like there are like we have a lot of like their diaries from that, obviously, because that was one of the reasons they were, you know, exploring this area. It was to record it. And so Lewis and Clark, we have like their writings and everything, and I was really excited to read a story about Sacagawea by a native author. She's a really interesting person. So this is a straightforward and fairly short account of a section of their journey, like most of their journey actually. We do see a little bit of Sacagawea at the beginning, how she is kidnapped by another tribe, how she is like put in this forced marriage, and then how she ends up becoming a guide and interpreter for the Lewis and Clark expedition, and then like part of the expedition and everything. And this was like a very interesting book. As I said, I was really excited to read a book by a native author that is about this figure, and so I do find it very valuable for that. I also really liked some of the like subtle kind of commentary throughout this book, because this is like a lot of this is from Sacagawea's perspective, in addition to, is it Lewis or Clark? I don't remember. Yeah, okay, it's Clark. So in alternating chapters told in Captain William Clark's and Sacagawea's voices. And with authentic excerpts from Clark's journals. So I did really enjoy in Sacagawea's parts, there were sections where like she would think to herself like how funny it is when like these like white men are talking about like discovering these plants, and like, oh, I have to like do a sketch of this new plant no one's ever seen before, and like Sacagawea's watching this like, we use that for headaches all the time. So like things like that I did really enjoy. I also think it did a pretty good job of showing that historical people can be interesting and very complicated, to say the least. You know, like extremely flawed. Like the fact that some of these men with these great ideals owned enslaved people. So there were things I liked about this. I do feel a little disappointed though. I feel like this book could have done more. Like I was really hoping and expecting that we were going to get a lot more about Sacagawea's like personality and like emotional life and just like her reactions to things. Like we are reading like about half this book from her perspective, and it doesn't really feel like we get to know her very well. And maybe the author was hesitant about reading too much into her personality, but I feel like with some of the other characters, like we were still able to get that. So I didn't like that. I also was very uncomfortable with the way some of those like of its time elements were handled. I did not like the way that Sacagawea's forced marriage was talked about. Like according to various accounts, she was either bought, like, you know, like sold into this marriage, or gambled away. And I don't know. I just feel like we should have addressed that differently. Like there's a lot of ways that I think the author could have gone with that. You know, maybe they want to use some artistic license, or maybe they want to keep the historical, like, you know, context, but change the way Sacagawea like felt and spoke about it. Because it just felt like she didn't really care. And I really didn't like that. Also, I just found her husband incredibly annoying as a character. Like even separate from the ethical issues I had with the way that was shown in this book, I just found him obnoxious. Thankfully he wasn't in the book too much. So this was kind of a mixed bag for me, but I gave Sacagawea 3.5 stars. I also finished Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien, edited by Bailey, who I believe is one of his children or grandchildren. I of course read this around the Christmas season. I think I finished it like a day or two after, but it still counts. And this is a very short book that is full of the letters that J.R.R. Tolkien would write to his children, as if he were Father Christmas, like based on letters and everything that they sent. And there are like recurring characters and like really beautiful illustrations he did. I really, really enjoyed those as well. And I love the way this book is formatted. So it has like the letters themselves, but then it also is just like in text in the book, which I really appreciate, because I find it can be pretty hard to read, like photographs of documents like that. I like that it was chronological. I thought this was really heartwarming and lovely and kind of bittersweet, you know, as the kids get older, but yeah, I give this 4 stars. I thought it was lovely. I also read Carney's House Party by Maud Hart Lovelace, illustrated by Vera Neville. This is a bind-up of 2 of the Deep Valley books. I believe there are 3 altogether. I already read Emily of Deep Valley, and this one is set around that time period. So our main character is Carney. I think her full name is Caroline, but she goes by Carney. And she is coming home for, like, I think her college semester has just ended. She's going back to Deep Valley, and she is having a house party. Like, a bunch of, like, girlfriends of hers are staying with her for a while, and she also invites she invites several friends from college as well, I think. And one of them is her friend Isabel. All the girls go to Vassar College, by the way. And Isabel is from back east, you know, the East Coast. So she is considered much more worldly and charming. And it's about Carney's kind of worlds combining a little bit, like introducing her friends to each other, getting to see her like hometown again. And then also one of the big things that everybody's kind of expecting to happen is that Carney is going to be getting engaged to, what is his name? Larry Humphreys, who like her high school sweetheart. She's like pined for him for years. They've like sent letters back and forth for years, so everyone kind of assumes this is a done deal, but maybe it's not. Maybe somebody else is going to catch her eye, and it's kind of about her. It's just like a very slice of life, and I liked this but didn't love it. It's like somewhere between a 3 and a 3.5 stars for me. I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as Emily of Deep Valley, but I did really love Carney as a main character. I liked the kind of quiet coziness of this story. I really liked the female friendships. I really love that this book shows so many different ways of like young women in this time period deciding to like make their lives what they want, you know? Like all of these women who are going to college, it's like some of them want a career, some of them want a career and marriage. Carney doesn't want a career. She wants to get married and have a family and everything, but she's still going to college. That's still important to her. And I really love how this book shows that like feminism is not about like there being one way to be, you know, liberated or anything. It's about like people being able to choose their path regardless of gender. And I really, really like the way this book shows that. As far as the negatives, this book felt more of its time than Emily of Deep Valley did. Like there is some very casual racism and like anti-native sentiments that were very uncomfortable to read, that were just like thrown in randomly for no reason. Not that there's ever a reason, you know what I mean. And there was also like quite a bit of fatphobia in this one. Like one of the characters that the girls are spending a lot of time with, like one of the characters keeps like thinking of him and describing him as like fat and unattractive, and then she'll kind of backtrack and she'll be like, well no, maybe he's just like big and everything, which first of all, you can be fat and attractive, but just like the way it was said was really unpleasant. I don't think that needed to be in there, and that happened quite a bit in the book. And then also like the romance subplot, I thought it was something I was gonna really enjoy. It has like some tropes I can like, but I didn't like the way it was done. Also didn't like the way the guy acted near the end. Like I liked his character overall, but I didn't love the way he was kind of bossy near the end, and I just didn't like their romance development. So far of the Maud Hart Lovelace books I've read, which is only a couple, but I'm finding that I enjoy a lot of things about her books, but the romance subplot is not one of them. So yeah, somewhere between 3 and a 3.5 stars. I am glad I read it, but not my favorite. I also read Healer of the Water Monster by Brian Young. This is by a Navajo author or Diné author, and I am considering this a contemporary book based on the story itself and also the author's note, where Brian Young talks about that even though this book does deal with like Navajo spirituality and holy beings and everything, like using people's real beliefs and culture is not fantasy, which I agree, and I appreciate that he put that in the author's note. So just to note that I am considering this a contemporary, and that the author does as well. So we're following our main character Nathan, who is staying with his grandmother over the summer. He's upset with his parents. He doesn't like his dad's new like girlfriend or fiance, and so he decides that he doesn't want to spend time with the two of them, and he can't stay with his mom. So he decides that he's going to spend the summer with his grandmother instead. And he ends up doing a science project as well there. That's like one of his reasons that he gives for wanting to go there, is he can work on his science experiment, which I really enjoyed the way that was used in the story as well. And while he's there, he ends up coming across a water monster, one of the holy beings from Navajo beliefs, and this water monster is very sick. And so Nathan ends up deciding that he is going to help this water monster. Along the way, he meets a lot of other Navajo holy beings, and he also is getting closer with his grandmother, getting to understand her a little bit more, and also his uncle Jet stays with them for a little while as well, and the book deals with his PTSD that he has from being in the military and being in war, and with how like the family is kind of trying to be there for him and help him to heal maybe. And I absolutely loved this. First I want to mention that I did actually listen to the audiobook and I also read along. The narrator is Sean Taylor Corbett and I thought he was fantastic. This is probably in my top 3 audiobooks I've ever listened to, which I don't listen to a ton, but you guys know that I often struggle with them. So for me to have one that I truly loved and enjoyed the experience with so much, I think says something. When I looked him up, it does say that he is Native. I don't know if he is Navajo specifically, but it certainly sounded like he was doing a really beautiful job of pronouncing the Navajo words, and I think that really added to the experience. And I also loved the different character voices he did. Like there's a spider named like Grandfather Firewood, and like his was great. All the other Navajo holy beings were great. I just really enjoyed like the character voices and the character work he did. So highly recommend the audio if that is an option for you. I really enjoyed listening to that as I read along. In terms of the written story itself, like I said, I did love this. I really liked Nathan's character development. We kind of see him like grow and change and like mature, and I really liked that. And he's also just like a very believable kid. And I really appreciate that Brian Young trusts his readers and his audience. Like this is a middle grade book, but he still doesn't like hand feed you everything. Like he doesn't, like you see gradual changes in these characters and in their relationships and the way they relate to each other and everything. But he doesn't like hit you over the head with that. He doesn't like signpost it in a really obvious way. Like it's clearly there, but he is not talking down to his audience, and I really love that. I also really enjoyed Nathan's grandmother. I thought the way that his Uncle Jet's storyline was handled was so thoughtful and compassionate. I really love the way, like one of my favorite parts of the book is there's a moment, I won't get into details because I don't want to give too much away, but talking about like walking both paths of healing, just the way that like Navajo practices and beliefs are shown to be like not incompatible with you know, Western science. I just really liked the way that was done. I loved seeing Navajo religion and culture incorporated throughout the story. I also really loved the themes of like stewardship and like taking care of the land and resources and other living beings. I thought that was really beautiful and really thoughtfully done. And this book does deal with some hard consequences, you know, like not being able to fix everything and heal everything, but there's still a lot of hope here as well. And I really liked that. I think that is something that more books should do, like regardless of age range. I think that's important because wanting people to take action, it's like you don't ever like why say there's nothing we can do if what you're trying to do is inspire people to do more, you know what I mean? And I just thought this book handled all of that really well. Just like the themes in general, I think were handled really beautifully. I really liked the humor, and this was another thing that I think was enhanced by the audiobook. Like there were several times where I like laughed out loud. I just really enjoyed those like moments of humor, and I also just enjoyed the way the story went. Like at the beginning I felt like it was a little bit slower. It took a little bit to get into, but I ended up being very invested, and I especially loved there's like this journey section near the end of the book, like kind of a quest, and you guys know I don't usually like those, but I loved that here. I loved seeing Nathan like overcome these obstacles. I liked seeing him interact with his traveling companions. I didn't expect that to be a part of the book at all, and I certainly didn't expect to like love it so much when we got there, but I really did. So obviously I thought this was fantastic, highly recommend, and I gave Healer of the Water Monster 5 stars. I also read Winona's Pony Cart by Maud Hart Lovelace. This is the last of the 3 Deep Valley books, although it's set, I think, the earliest, but it's the last one I read, and it's the second one in this bind-up, which I think is interesting. So our main character is Winona. She's an 8-year-old girl, and this is a much shorter story than the other 2, more like a novella or a short story than a novel like the others. Yeah, and Winona wants a pony. Like that's like the basic premise of the story. Is her birthday's coming up and she really wants a pony. She's been told no, but she keeps hoping anyway. And it's about like her party and what happens and all of that. And this is my least favorite of the 3. It was fine. I gave it 3 stars. But it read very quickly, but I didn't have any particular like investment. I don't think it was as compelling as the other 2 novels. Honestly, Winona was kind of a brat. Like she was kind of annoying. So I didn't love following her, and I didn't love her behavior, even though like she is 8 and she felt believable. But also I don't like the way her parents handled some of the things that they did. Like they were frustrating, like both sides of the conflict was very frustrating to me, so that also wasn't super fun. But again, it is a very, you know, quick, cozy story. I do also really like that Maud Hart Lovelace seems to be very good at writing like kid dynamics and the way kids think and interact with each other. Like I remember from when I was around Winona's age, it's like, oh yeah, this rings very true. So I do like that, but like I'm glad I finished the series, but this is not going to be one that I'm especially excited to revisit. So 3 stars. I also finally read Gilded Ashes by Rosamund Hodge. This is only available as an ebook, I believe, and it is a short story that is set in the same world as Cruel Beauty, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling and kind of other things as well. And Gilded Ashes is a Cinderella retelling, and it is a very, very dark one, which definitely makes sense considering the world it is set in. And I absolutely loved this. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because like Rosamund Hodge is consistently one of my favorite authors. I consistently even love the things she does that no one else seems to. And I just thought this was fantastic. Our main character is named Maya, and she is the kind of Cinderella character in this story, although it is a very creative retelling of this story, and I think it's one of my favorites. I love the way that Rosamund Hodge like takes the Cinderella story and fits it into her Cruel Beauty world. I think it is so smart, so creepy and atmospheric, but also very beautiful in some ways. Like the way Rosamund Hodge does beautiful, messy, strange, but heart-filling sister relationships just gets me every time. I love it so much, and I loved it here. There's also a romance subplot that I really, really loved. This is a novella, and I would have liked to see like even more time with them and like even more development for that, but Rosamund Hodge just writes characters and dynamics in ways that get me invested so much more quickly than I expect or than another author might in a short page time. So even though like I wanted to see more with them, I still bought it. I still loved it. I also really liked Maya as a main character. Rosamund Hodge does really fantastic female leads that are like strong in non-stereotypical ways, and they have to make hard decisions, and that sometimes makes them hard, but there's always this like underlying goodness and compassion, and like they are fierce, but they are also fierce when it comes to doing good, and I just love that about them so much. I also love her writing. It's so suited to these kinds of like fairy tale-esque, atmospheric, dark but also beautiful, and then also very like intimate stories that she tells. Like even from the first line of this one, I loved the writing. My mother loved me more than life itself. That's how everything went wrong. I just think that is such a strong, intriguing start to a story. Yeah, I obviously am gushing. I loved this. I have had a couple people ask me a good starting point for Rosamund Hodge, and I've never really had a great answer. But I feel like Gilded Ashes actually might be a good one to start with. There are definitely some elements of the world building that I think aren't as clear if you haven't read Cruel Beauty first, but you can definitely follow everything. And I feel like this is a good kind of sample of her writing style, the kinds of stories she tells, like her atmosphere, her storytelling choices. So I gave Gilded Ashes 5 stars. I am kind of obsessed with Rosamund Hodge. I also read So This Is Christmas by Jenny Holiday. Like I've been saying, guys, like I am not usually a big Christmas romance or Christmas book in general person, but I read some good ones this year. And also, plot twist, I'll tell you guys now, this is a contemporary romance and I gave it 5 stars. I don't think that's ever happened before. Also, it's kind of funny because this has a truly abysmal Goodreads rating. I think it's like 3.5 or something, which is very low for Goodreads. And yeah, I guess I guess this doesn't work for a lot of people, but I really loved it. This is the 3rd book in a contemporary series that is one of those that's like, there's a fictional monarchy, which you guys know I don't like royal romances, so I have no interest in reading the other 2. But this 3rd one, the like character who's connected to the royal family is not actually a member of the family. He is, I forget what the name for his job is, but he's basically like the man behind the scenes who makes sure everything like runs smoothly, like kind of like a stage manager in theater. He makes like everything happen and he keeps everything going. And he is our hero. His name is Mateo Benz. And then our female lead is Cara Delaney. Great first name, by the way. And she is being brought in as a consultant because she is like she does like management and financial consulting kind of thing. She's been brought into this fictional country of Eldovia to kind of like look at their like primary, I guess, like factory or like business, because they're a very tiny country and most of their GDP comes from this one export and they're not doing so well. And so they brought her in as a consultant, and there might be some hard choices and cuts that come with that. And so understandably, Mateo is very unhappy that she's here, but also understandably Kara is kind of like, well, I'm just doing the job I was hired for, like this is how things have to be. And so the two of them have a lot of reasons why they shouldn't like each other and why they don't like each other at the beginning, but then of course they end up falling in love. And like I said, I absolutely loved this. Like I was hoping to enjoy it, and maybe this is a good sign that I need to like trust my instincts about some romance novels rather than like reviews and the average rating, because again, a lot of people didn't like this, but I freaking loved it. I read this all in one night, and I don't think I've done that with a romance since I read The Unhoneymooners, which is like 2 or 3 years ago. I found the relationship so compelling. I really loved it. I feel like this is kind of a slow burn as well, which you guys know I love. I also love how even when they are like very, you know, like butting heads, you know, they want kind of opposite things, they're never like insulting or offensive to the other person. Like Mateo always respects Kara as like a competent businesswoman, like, and he actually is like very impressed by her competence, which I love. In the acknowledgements, the author describes the vibe of this series as Hallmark but make it spicy, and I feel like she did a really good job with that. I also think that she did a great job of balancing the kind of like inherent cheesiness of the setup with like actually thinking through some of the implications of things. Like of course, like I said, this is gonna be a little bit cheesy, a little bit fluffy, and those parts really worked for me. I thought it was really fun and romantic and not over the top. But then also there were places where it felt like fairly realistic in some ways. Like, yeah, if you are a whole country who is depending on one export that people aren't buying very much anymore, like, yeah, you would need a management consultant. And also like thinking about like geographically where this country would sit and what languages people might speak there. Like there were just some things that I feel like she did put thought into. I also really loved Kara and Mateo both as main characters. Like I loved them individually and also together. Like I keep saying I loved their romance so much. Like there were little things that they loved about each other and that they respected and that they found romantic, and then of course also like big things. I also really loved the emphasis on family and how close both Kara and Mateo are with their family and how important that is to them. I loved the cozy setting, and as you can probably tell, this is one of the only like contemporary hate to loves that I think actually really worked. It was more like opposite goals or opposite sides of a conflict than like actual enemies, and I feel like the way that it was developed was done really, really well. So I absolutely loved this. I gave So This Is Christmas 5 stars. Apparently a lot of people didn't, but it was exactly my thing. It was exactly what I wanted, and I actually do want to check out some of Jenny Holiday's other books. Like I said, probably not the other ones in this series, but I think I like the way she does romance, so excited about finding that. Okay everybody, so those were the HarperCollins books that I have read within the last few months. I'm so glad that I have finally been able to share those with you, and you'll also be seeing some of them pop up in Favorites of the Year videos that are still going up. Let me know if you have read any of these books or if you're interested in any of them. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!